Let us start the talk. So today we have a special guest, Claude Sabat from École Polytechnique, who will speak about irregular Hodge theory and applications to arithmetic and mirror symmetry. So please, and usually we finish at 5, something around that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think, so can you see my screen?
Yeah, it works now.
It works? Okay. So the talk is about this irregular Hodge theory that I would like to explain, at least at some points, and some applications to it, to arithmetic and mirror symmetry. But I would like to start with the motivations and original motivations. So as far as I know, sorry, I have a problem for, okay. So as far as I know, the origin goes back to Deligne in 1984 in a series of talks at IHES that you can find in this book by the French Math Society, where Deligne was mostly interested. So maybe I stop just here to say that I read on the right page, and you see the you see the previous page on the left, so you can look at it from time to time if you like. So I am reading on the right page of the slides. So the origin of Deligne interest and idea starts from say the Griffiths regularity theorem, which say that whenever you have an algebraic vector bundle on a quasi-projective curve and with a connection, then if you assume that this vector bundle with connection underlies a polarizable variation of Hodge structure, then this implies that the connection has a regular singularity at the infinity points on the curve. So it's a way, for example, to prove the regularity of the Gauss-Manin connection. Then there are, Deligne was interested in exponential sums over finite fields and complex analogues of such. And it was led to consider vector bundles with connection on curves, but having possibly irregular singularities at infinity. And his main question was whether there is a Hodge realization for such objects, either any Hodge theory that governs such objects. So a typical example is that of the exponential of the variable x. So you consider it either as a vector bundle on the affine line, so OA1, rank 1 bundle, trivial bundle, with connection d plus dx, so the twisted differential, or you can consider it as a quasi-coherent bundle on P1 with this same connection, having a pole at infinity. So the idea of Deligne was to try to construct a filtration on such bundles. So the filtration was constructed by Deligne in some examples, in many examples on curves. So he could define a decreasing filtration on this J lower star V. So when you extend the bundle to the projective curve as a quasi-Korean sheaf. And this filtration was supposed to satisfy, I mean, he could construct such filtration that indeed satisfy what is called the Griffiths transversality property. Of course, in many of the examples, the important things happens at infinity and nothing very interesting happens at finite distance. But having Griffiths transversality property, you can build the RAM complex and you can filter the RAM complex as it is done here by putting Fp on the first term and Fp minus 1 on the second term. And then this filtered complex, you can take its hypercohomology. And in these examples, many examples, Deligne could prove that there is a degeneration at E1 of the spectral sequence. And here it simply means that the hypercohomology of the filtered piece injects into the hypercohomology of the total complex. And moreover, Deligne remarked that, in fact, this filtration is, naturally comes indexed by not only integers, but maybe some real numbers, depending on the example you are looking at. So there should be a finite set between 0 and 1 of real numbers, that so that the indices of the filtration belong to this finite set plus integers. And in fact, this finite set is related to the monodromy of the connection around the points at infinity. So this was the first place where this idea came in. And Deligne asked in notes in this book I mentioned, he asked what could be the use of such a Hodge filtration, which does not lead to a Hodge theory. So, and he had arithmetic motivations, meaning that the hope was that this could impose some bounds to p-adic valuations of eigenvalues of Frobenius. So to have an idea of what he meant, few years later, Adolphson and Sperber indeed proved a kind of bounds for these L functions attached to a Laurent polynomial assumed to be non-degenerate in the sense of Kushnirenko with integer coefficients, and they could relate or bound the Newton polygon made with the p-adic valuations of the coefficients of the L function, and to bound it by the Newton polygon attached to, say, the combinatorics of F. So in some sense, this goes in the direction of Deligne's hope, in the sense that you have Newton above Hodge. But on the other hand, this is not related to Hodge theory or Hodge filtration. Instead, there is a kind of a combinatorics of Newton polyhedra that come in. But we will see at the end of the talk that, in fact, they are much related. So this was the arithmetic motivation, say, and there was another motivation a little later by Simpson, when working on non-abelian Hodge theory on curves, on non-compact curves. Then Simpson established a correspondence between some vector bundles with connection having regular or tame singularities at infinity, and stable tame parabolic Higgs bundles with some conditions. But tameness was important, or regular singularity from the point of view of connections was an important condition. And in fact, already in his paper, Simpson suggests that it would be possible to extend this correspondence to wild objects. So wild in the sense of arithmetic is irregular singularity in the sense of vector bundles with connections. So more precisely, here is what he writes down in his paper of 1990, that in particular, a question is whether one could set up a correspondence in which some non-tame harmonic bundles correspond to systems of differential equations with irregular singularities. So that was, the question was already clearly settled at that time. And in fact, there was some work around 2000 giving a positive answer to this question by myself, and on the other hand, more completely by Olivier Bicard and Phil Borch around 2000. And in fact, this idea was led to really the vast generalization by Takuro Mochizuki in 2011. And he gave a general framework for this wild non-abelian Hodge theory. On the other hand, if you think of a Deligne question, finding a Hodge filtration, in this approach, no Hodge filtration appears, unfortunately. But it is the right framework where to find it. And next, a little later, mirror symmetry for Fano manifolds also led to considering pairs consisting of quasi-projective variety, smooth, say, and a regular function on it. And considering these pairs not as families of varieties, but as really a geometric object in their own, thought as a mirror for a Fano manifold, say. And so there were various cohomology theories attached to these pairs. From the Betti side, there is the homology of Lefschetz symbols. The Durham side is the cohomology, the hypercohomology of the twisted Durham complex, so twisted by the differential of the function. There is also an interest in periodic cyclic homology. One is led to consider such things, and also exponential motives. So these were many directions where to find homology theory for such pairs. And in particular, there are some questions related to Hodge theory for such pairs, so called Landau-Ginzburg models. So for example, if you have such a pair XF mirror of a Fano manifold Y, what should be the Hodge theory on this, or one of these cohomologies corresponding to that of Y? So this is going more further in the direction of Hodge theory for such pairs. But already you see that something strange can happen, namely that you can consider a Fano orbifold, not only a Fano manifold. For example, you can consider the weighted projective space with various weights. And you know that for this Fano orbifold, there is a orbifold cohomology, say chain-run cohomology, and it has rational exponents. So the indices appearing may be rational depending on the age of the twisted sectors. So it is natural to expect that the filtration on the, if it does exist on the corresponding mirror for the pair XF, should also get rational exponents. So this meets the same idea as Deligne had found before. There is another interesting question, is that for such, such a projective Fano manifold, how to translate in this Hodge, possibly Hodge theory of the cohomology of the pair XF, how to translate the hard Lefschetz for the C1 of the anti-canonical bundle. So these are questions that naturally arise, and I will try to explain how irregular Hodge theory can be built and at least solve some of them.
Excuse me, what about polarizations? Do you also have polarization in this kind of?
Yes, I will I will tell this about polarization.
Yep.
Polarization comes much in when considering also Frobenius manifolds. So I will record this. Maybe I would like to say something first before continuing, that this irregular Hodge filtration in general is not supposed to be a constituent of what one will call an irregular Hodge structure. Namely, in case of classical Hodge structure, you start with a filtration or two filtrations, the weight filtration also, and you ask some properties of these two filtrations. Here, the properties and the definition are those of some kind of twistor or mixed twistor structures, and the irregular Hodge filtration is only a byproduct, but it is not a constituent of the definition. So it explains a little the explanation of Deligne, explaining that we have something that we call a Hodge filtration, but it does not have really the Hodge properties. Okay, so let me first show a simple example of this to understand what this irregular Hodge filtration is for such pairs as we have for, say, mirror or Fano manifolds, and show that the important property here is the E1 degeneration property. So similar to what Deligne had found in some examples. So the setting is this case, the case of a smooth quasi-projective variety with a regular function on it. And we choose a compactification of the map. So I just call it also F. So X bar is a smooth projective variety. F now is considered as a map to P1. And there is a divisor, which is assumed to have normal crossings, D, which consists of two parts. Say, one part is the pole divisor of the map F, of the meromorphic function F. And this pole divisor naturally arise with some multiplicities. So there are natural multiplicities on this part of the divisor, which are defined from the function F. And there is a remaining part of the divisor that can also exist. Now, the de Rham cohomology we are interested in, as I said, is the de Rham of this, the hypercohomology of this twisted de Rham complex. So the usual differential forms on X, but the differential now is twisted by adding df to the differential. Okay. Now we can compute this de Rham complex in the compact or projective setting, either by just considering meromorphic forms with poles along D and keeping the same differential, or maybe more conveniently, introducing a complex that I will call a Kontsevich complex, which consists in mimicking the logarithmic complex, since the divisor D is assumed to have normal crossings. So we mimic this complex. This was a definition of Kontsevich in the following way. So this will be each term will be a sub vector bundle, in fact, of the sheaf of logarithmic forms with poles along D. And we consider the subsheaf consisting of those forms for which df wedge omega remains logarithmic. So this is a strong condition along the pole divisor, because along the pole divisor, df has a high order pole. So any form, even logarithmic form, will not remain logarithmic after this application of df. But also, as we know that any logarithmic form remains logarithmic after applying the differential d, the first condition wedging with df is equivalent with the second condition, which means applying the connection to the form d plus df. So,
excuse me.
Yes.
Is this device a normal crossing or simple normal crossing?
Well, it does not matter here. You can, here it does not matter. You can, this is really a local condition on the divisor. So it is a definition of a sheaf. Okay, so we have this, this is in fact, if you compute locally, you find this really is a locally free sheaf, subsheaf of the usual sheaf of logarithmic forms. And then you can filter this de Rham complex as did Deligne. So there is a definition by Zhengdao Yu for filtering the first, the meromorphic de Rham complex, and maybe a simpler one by Katsarkov, Kontsevich, and Pantev in their paper for filtering this logarithmic F logarithmic de Rham complex, say, and this is exactly mimicking the definition of Deligne. Namely, you just truncate on the left, and the Fp of the complex is just the complex starting in degree P and having 0 before degree P. Okay, so this is exactly the same definition as Deligne did when F is constant equal to 0. So if you remember this theorem of Deligne, that you have E1 degeneration for this filtered complex. And so, in fact, what happens is that this this log de Rham complex, or if you prefer, this meromorphic de Rham complex, having this twist of the differential and this filtration. I did not explain precisely the filtration for the meromorphic part, but in fact, these are defined, and there are two quasi-isomorphic filtered complexes. So one can consider either one or the other. Well, in any case, these filtrations of the complexes give rise to spectral sequence, which degenerates at E1 also. This was a proof by all these people here. So exactly the same statement as Deligne, but for this modified de Rham complex. So it's interesting to look to have an idea of the proofs that I will not give in detail, but just to give an idea of the various different proofs. So one of them by Moriko Saito, it uses a comparison between, try to express this filtered complex and filtered cohomology in terms of the nearby cycles of the map F around its pole divisor, and use relations with Steenbrink and Schmidt limit theorems. So this uses classical Hodge theory in the sense of Steenbrink and Schmidt. And you see also that monodromy at infinity is important here. I mean, really the nearby cycles at infinity come in when one tries to compute these things. There is another completely different proof by Katsarkov, Kontsevich, and Pantev in their paper. And they use a reduction to characteristic P as in the proof of Deligne-Ilussi. But then their proof works under the assumption that the pole divisor is reduced. So apparently, at the moment, there is no proof in general, but this Deligne-Ilussi method extends to this case when the pole divisor is reduced. Now with Hélène Hainaut and Zhengdao Yu, we use a different idea going in the direction of wild, let's say, wild Hodge theory or wild twistor theory. So first, we apply a theorem to reduce to a problem on the affine line by just pushing forward this meromorphic bundle with connections. So here we have this connection D plus DF on the bundle O of star D on X bar, and we push it down to A1 or P1. And then I had proved, I had extended some of the Deligne results I mentioned before on curves by using the theory of twistor D modules. So here we use the new tools of twistor D modules that we now have in order to solve this degeneration question. And there was later another proof using also twistor D modules, not reducing to dimension 1 by Mochizuki, so more direct proof. So you see here that one can, in this example, which is not too complicated, one can see this filtration, so this irregular Hodge filtration, which is defined as the filtration induced by the filtered complex. We can see it from various points of view, depending on whether we like, we prefer, say, the classical algebraic geometry, like in the Saito's proof, or we can go more deeper in the irregular connections and irregular Hodge theory. And from this point of view also, I would like to emphasize that it was not clear. I mean, in the definition I gave, a priori, the filtration is indexed by integers. For example, in the definition of Katsarkov, Kontsevich, and Pantev, here we just consider filtration twisted by integers, so indexed by integers. By twisting a little this definition, one can take into account the multiplicities of the divisor, the pole divisor, and we can refine this filtration by taking into account these multiplicities and the possible jumps. So the possible set A between 0 and 1 that occurs consists of these quotients L over M sub I, where M sub I is a multiplicity and L is between 0 and M sub I minus 1. So we see that also here, this is also, of course, related to the eigenvalues of monodromies, these jumps of the filtration. Okay, so before going, yes?
Yeah. Just to clarify, so when you're speaking about degeneration, the filtration is integer indexed. No,
Sorry?
no. When you're speaking about degeneration, your filtration is indexed by integers.
Yes, yes. So the point is to consider various complexes. So you can, for example, these logarithmic complexes, you can put rational numbers and change the complex a little bit by taking into account the behavior with respect to the pole divisor. So you can change a little the complex depending on these numbers belonging to this set A, and it produces also a new filtered complex. And these complexes have all the same hypercohomology, but the filtrations are just shifted a little, and they fill in in a global filtration indexed by this A plus N. So
But is there some kind of refinement of degeneration statement then?
I mean, there is a degeneration for each shifted complex, if you like, and of course the images are. I mean, you have natural inclusions with respect to the order on A plus N. but you treat each complex for a fixed rational number in A, and the complex is indexed by integers.
Okay,
So,
thank you. Yeah.
Yes, just shift a little. It happens that all these shifted filtration built a filtration indexed by the set A plus n. Okay, but you treat them separately.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, so before going further in this notion of irregular Hodge filtration, I would like to show you that even if this is related to irregular singularities, it may be helpful when trying to compute usual or classical Hodge numbers in some cases. So I would like to show you an example where this approach is useful for even for computing classical Hodge numbers. So the idea, the general idea I could say is that if you teach calculus and convolution of functions, you know of functions of one real variable, say, then you know that in order to compute convolution, sometimes it is easier to apply Fourier transformation, compute the product, and then come back. So in fact, this is the way we could compute with Javier Fresan and Zhengdao Yu. We could compute some Hodge numbers with about some arithmetic motivations for proving some results on L functions attached to symmetric power moments of some Klustermann sums. But I will not enter in these arithmetic motivations, but just show you how this technique of irregular Hodge filtration can lead to computing classical usual Hodge numbers. So the starting point is the complex analog of the Klustermann sums. So as I said, exponential sums usually over finite fields are related to some irregular differential equations. And here, the differential equation we consider is the modified Bessel differential equation on the complex torus GM with coordinate Z. So the bundle is the trivial bundle on GM. I call it, and it has a connection. So I call it this bundle with connection KL2. So the connection is very simple. It's just the connection with a matrix having 0Z and 1, 0 times dz over Z. So this is a rank 2 bundle. It has a regular singularity at Z equals 0 because you see the logarithmic behavior dz over Z. But at infinity, because of the Z in the matrix here, we find dz, which has a pole of order 2 at infinity. So at infinity, it really has an irregular singularity. And we were interested in considering the symmetric powers of this vector bundle with connection. So as bundle or as a module over the ring of GM, so the ring of Laurent polynomials, it's just a free module of rank k plus 1, and it has a connection that can be computed from this connection on KL2. And we can compute, we were interested in its de Rham cohomology. So this H1 de Rham is just the co-kernel of this connection considered on this free module over the polynomial ring. So this connection is the symmetric product of this nabla given by this matrix. Okay, So this is the object, and what we could prove with Javier Fresan and Zheng Dao Yu is a result concerning this de Rham cohomology, and I will state it for k odd. For simplicity, it is valid for any k, but a little more complicated. So first, this de Rham cohomology is canonically endowed with a mixed Hodge structure of weights k plus 1 and 2k plus 2. So, and the second point was to compute the Hodge numbers for this mixed Hodge structure, and we found that they were either 1 or 0, and this was in fact our original motivation to find this kind of Hodge numbers. Okay, so I would like to explain why we find a mixed Hodge structure and our way to compute these Hodge numbers. So first, the motivation for that was in a series of papers and also conference talks by Broadhurst, David Broadhurst and Roberts, and they were interested in some Feynman integrals, and these Feynman integrals were expressed as period integrals involving what is called modified Bessel functions. So these I0, K0, you can find them in, say, classical books on Bessel functions. And they are, if you like, they are solutions of this modified Bessel differential equation. And they were led to, by considering these Feynman integrals and Bessel moments, so these are the Bessel moments here, they were led to various conjectures on L functions for Kloosterman moments, so arithmetic, and also so many interesting conjectures. We could prove some of them with these methods. So this was the motivation, and now something is strange in this statement is that we have a connection, this sim k of KL2, which has an irregular singularity at infinity. It is a true irregular singularity, even from the point of view of irregular singularities. It has a slope 1/2. So it's really something you cannot avoid. It's really irregular, although at the origin, it's a regular one, a nice one. And it may be strange that this de Rham cohomology has a mixed Hodge structure, because it does not come from the theorem of Griffiths, this property, because Griffiths, in fact, prevents, Griffith's theorem prevents to find a polarizable variation of Hodge structure. So we cannot apply such kind of result here. On the other hand, what we do is to give a motivic interpretation of this de Rham cohomology and to explain that this motivic approach gives the mixed Hodge structure. So although we start from an irregular connection, its de Rham cohomology may have a classical meaning. Okay, so yes?
Yeah, this mixed Hodge structure, is it over R or over integers or rationals?
Over Q, over Q.
Over Q.
It's, yes, it's defined over Q.
And the pieces are like Hodge state or something?
The pieces are?
Hodge state or polarizable?
No, they are not. No, they are not Hodge state. So in fact, you have the interesting piece is this part of weight k plus 1, And so you have the pure piece, which is of weight k plus 1, and which and you have odd numbers which are 1, 0, 1, 0, and so on.
Sorry, I have a question, but is it polarizable?
Yes, yes, it is polarizable. Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so the way once we have this motivic interpretation, we know that we have a mixed Hodge structure. The question is how to compute it. So either we could try to, as I will show you, we could try to use classical methods, but we found easier to use irregular methods, namely to understand that this irregular vector bundle, vector bundle with irregular connection underlies something like a variation of irregular Hodge structure that maybe I will explain a little later. So just to give you the idea, it is not something like Griffith's theorem, but an irregular version of Griffith's theorem. And then this implies that this hypercohomology is endowed with an irregular Hodge filtration, in the sense that I will explain a little later. And then it happens that in such a case where we have two competing structures, so we have the mixed Hodge structure in the classical sense, and we have also an irregular Hodge structure, but these two competing structures are not competing, they in fact coincide. So the irregular Hodge filtration coincides with this classical Hodge filtration. And so we can, instead of computing Hodge numbers by classical means, we can use this irregular Hodge filtration to compute them. And we compute them by using toric methods that were developed by Adolphson, Sperber, and Yu. And in fact, these methods are, if you like, the irregular analog of the computations by Danilov and Khovansky for toric hypersurfaces. So this is the way we did these computations. And I will try to show you, to explain why we find the RAM cohomology group has a motivic interpretation. So the point is to start with this, go back to this vector bundle KL2 with connection, and to interpret this bundle on the affine line, or on the on the complex torus, to interpret it as a Gauss-Manin connection of a bundle on GM squared. So adding a new variable x and twisting the differential by the function x plus z over x. So we consider this vector bundle with connection on GM squared, and we push it down like with the Gauss-Manin method. We push it down to the GM with coordinate z. And what we find is a vector bundle of rank 2, and having this connection nabla. This is a KL2. Then we are interested in the symmetric powers. So we start by computing the tensor powers of this KL2 that we realize at the Gauss-Manin connection of the bundle on GM to the power k plus 1. So we keep the variable z to project on it, and we just do a sum. We separate variables x sub I. So a sum of function x sub I plus z over x sub I. So this is the way to compute this tensor product. And this function is nice, but it would be nicer if we could express it as a Thom-Sebastiani sum. Namely, we could clearly have different sets of variables. Here, the z interferes with all variables. So what we do is we go back to the Bessel differential equation. So the Bessel differential equation that we call KL tilde 2 is just a pullback of our vector bundle with connection KL2 by the degree 2 morphism t goes to t squared. So we replace z by t squared. And to make things nicer, we replace the variable x sub I, which was used before, by x sub I divided by t. And with these new variables t and y, the tensor product of this KL2 tilde is the Gauss-Manin connection of a nicer function, d of t times g sub k, where now g sub k does not depend on t, just the Taube-Sebastiani sum of y sub I plus 1 over y sub I. So this is, I mean, you can recognize from the point of view of mirror symmetry, the differential equation attached to P1 to the K. So now back to our problem. Yes?
Excuse me. Do you need the Q polarization for pushing forward?
I push forward as a D module, say, or just as a D module. There is no polarization. Okay. Just push forward as a vector bundle with connection. So it's just pushing forward, just taking a relative de Rham complex and considering the cohomology of relative de Rham complex relative to a projection like this, or better, y t goes to t. So this de Rham cohomology we are interested in fact, appears as invariant or maybe plus minus invariant part of this the de Rham cohomology of this tensor product of this Bessel differential equation. KL tilde is really the Bessel differential equation, and invariant by the group sigma sub k, so the group of the S sub k, so the group of permutation of the variables y sub I, and mu2 is comes from the sign t goes to minus t here. So it acts on this object, and we finally express it in a kind of better way. So we have some geometry here. We have the k plus 1 de Rham cohomology of gm cross gm to the k with respect to the function t and gk. So this de Rham cohomology is exactly the de Rham cohomology xf that I considered before, but f now is t times gk, and we have the action of the group to take into account. Okay, so this is not far from what I want to say about motivic interpretation. This is not still motivic in the sense of Fressan and Jossen. It would be called exponential motivic, but we really want something motivic, and these two people, Fressan and Jossen, so it's not Sy but Fj, they have shown that whenever you have a function g on some smooth quasi-projective variety, and you compute on gm cross u the de Rham cohomology of t times g, then it underlies a classical Norrie motif. So it is endowed with a canonical mixed Hodge structure. So when the function takes this form, t times g, you really find something which is classical as an exponential motif. So in particular, it has a mixed Hodge structure. So you can understand this very easily if you remember some results from calculus. So it's really analogous to the Fourier inversion formula for functions. So if you have a function h from R to R with good properties, then you can recover h at 0 by integrating its Fourier transform, or if you prefer, by a double integral of this exponential t times h. So this is our t times g, dt dx. Okay, so this double integral, when you integrate the Fourier transform, gives back something that you call classical. It's only depends on the function you started with. And in our case, so the h is played by, the role of h is played by our gk. And in fact, a variant of what we want is that this de Rham cohomology, maybe here not on gm cross gmk, but a1 cross gmk, this de Rham cohomology is in fact computed from the cohomology with compact support. In fact, it's dual with the toric hypersurface defined by GK. Okay, so we can say that we have here an irregular Hodge filtration, but it coincides with the Hodge filtration coming from this mixed Hodge structure of K. And in fact, we can compute either when K is easy to compute, we can compute with K, or we can compute with Adolphson and Sperber methods with this irregular setting. And when K is even, for example, this hypersurface has singularities, and we found it easier to compute with this with the method of U and Adolphson and Sperber. So this gives you an idea that we can really use this irregular Hodge filtration to compute classical Hodge numbers. And now I will go back to this general theory, to the general theory of irregular mixed Hodge structure. So there have been a lot of proposals for various reasons of extensions of what a mixed Hodge structure could be. The first I know is due to Simpson. This was the notion of mixed twistor structure. And this notion was finally developed completely by Takuro Mochizuki in the theory of mixed twistor D-modules. So mixed twistor D-modules over a point are mixed twistor structures in the sense of Simpson. Also, Barannikov was led to introducing some what he called semi-infinite pure Hodge structures in order to construct Frobenius manifold structures by using Maurer-Cartan equations. Also, Hertling used a kind of such construction that he called TERP structures. So the P here is for polarization. So Hertling, in the pure case here, insisted on polarization because it was important for him to construct, to produce a TT star geometry on some Frobenius manifolds. So here the polarization is essential. And later, Katsarkov, Kontsevich, and Pantev introduced what they call a non-commutative Hodge structure. And they were motivated by extending Hodge theory to periodic cyclic homology of some what they call smooth and compact DG algebras. Later on, you find in the paper of Kontsevich and Zeugelmann the notion of exponential mixed Hodge structure, motivated this time by extending Hodge theory to cohomological Hall algebras. And then there is this notion of irregular Hodge structure that I will explain, which is really a generalization of Deligne's approach. So, for example, our object, this de Rham cohomology of XF, in fact, it underlies an exponential mixed Hodge structure in the sense of Kontsevich soluble map. But from it, you can deduce an irregular Hodge structure. And in particular, the filtration of this Hodge structure is this filtration I defined before. So there are, of course, relations between all these structures. I just want to say that one common point is that there are not structures on a vector space, but they are all structures on a vector bundle. So there is a one parameter object coming in everywhere. So that's the common point. But I will insist on the last irregular Hodge structure now. So in order to give a definition, let me start with these mixed twistor structures of Simpson. So the objects are quite simple. They are just vector bundles. So you have a T is a vector bundle, a twistor structure, if you like, on P1. P1 is assumed to be covered with two charts that we fix, and we call the coordinates U. So this is the notation of Kontsevich, and V is 1 over U. So we have a P1 with 2 points, 0 and infinity, at the center at the two charts. And you just call it a twistor structure, I mean, just a name. Then you assume that you have a connection on this vector bundle, which has a pole of order at most 2, at 0 and infinity, and no other pole. So it is called an integrable twistor structure. And this pole of order 2 could be of order 1, in fact. So you would have a regular, even a logarithmic connection. It could be of order 2, but the connection could be with regular singularities, or it could be really of order 2 and with irregular singularities. So we have various possibilities. And there is a filtration, increasing filtration, the weight filtration. And so the condition for the mixed, here in mixed twistor structure is that each graded piece of this vector bundle with connection is pure of weight L, meaning that the bundle, underlying bundle, is just OP1 of L up to some power, so the rank of the bundle. So this is called an integrable mixed twistor structure. And if the weight filtration has only one jump, then you would get a pure, integrable pure twistor structure. And you can add various things to this data, like a polarization that I will not explain in the pure case. You can add a real or rational structure. So real or rational structure live on the local system of flat sections of the connection on C star. So you have a flat connection on C star, so it has a locally constant sheaf. And you may ask that this sheaf is defined over R or over rational numbers. And if there is really an irregular singularity at infinity, then you should take also into account the Stokes structure or the Stokes matrices at 0 and infinity. So as explained last time by Tony Pantev. Okay, so these are the possible additions to the structure. And in any case, there is an associated vector space, which is the fiber at 1. So the fiber at 1 is the vector space of the structure.
I'm sorry. Can I ask a couple of questions about it? First of
Yeah,
all, this seems to be not the original definition of Simpson, is it? Because there, I think there was no connection. It was just
yes, yes. The first. So if you just mixed the vector bundle and the filtration, this was the definition of Simpson. Mixed twist-or structure.
Right.
But now I just want to insist on the connection because I will use it later.
Okay. And another question, at real structure, do you use the non-trivial real structure on P1, which is given by this antipodal involution, or you just do it like pointwise?
So you can do both. You can do both because of yes. I would say you can do both, and they gave the same result when they can be defined together.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Yes. So here I will insist on this case with a connection. But if you don't have a connection, you don't have a local system, and you can define a real structure without this local system at hand.
But not the rational one. For rational one, you need something.
No, rational, you need something more. So rational, you really need the local system and the stock structure, if any. Okay, so now when you have such data, I will explain how to construct a filtration, a decreasing filtration, possibly indexed by real numbers, as I said before, A plus, so finite subset A plus integers, in the following way. So this you can associate to this data what I call irregular hot filtration on the vector space H, which is the fiber at 1. So let me show you the construction, which is quite simple, in fact. So the construction goes as follows. So having this vector bundle and with this connection, in fact, you take out the point at infinity and you only keep the vector bundle and connection in the analytic sense on the affine line. This means that you can now forget about the point at infinity, so the point where v, the variable v was equal to 0. You can just forget it completely and replace the vector bundle by as if the connection had regular singularities at infinity. So this is a very transcendental construction going from T to these M alphas. This is very transcendental. You pass through this Deligne construction of vector bundle on P1, which is called Deligne extension. So from this M nabla analytic on the analytic affine line, you extend, given any real number alpha, you extend this vector as a vector bundle with logarithmic connection at infinity, and you insist that the residues have a real part in, say, the interval alpha plus 1. So this is called the Deligne extension. So this is not canonical Deligne extension. The canonical one would be with alpha equals 0, but you take any of them when alpha varies between 0 and 1. And then you get a vector bundle now that can be thought as also an algebraic vector bundle, but which is very different from the previous one. But this is a vector bundle on P1, and it has a filtration, Harder-Narasimhan filtration. And you can induce on the vector space H. So the vector space did not change during this procedure because it was the fiber at 1. So we did not touch at anything at finite distance. So H is not changed, but you can induce this Harder-Narasimhan filtration on H, and you get a filtration that I call the irregular H filtration. And in order to take into account these alphas, you shift the filtration by alpha. So this Hardan-Narasimhan filtration on M alpha, you call it Fp minus alpha of H. It happened that it really defines a decreasing filtration indexed by some finite subset plus integers. Okay, unfortunately, this construction, even starting from integrable mixed twist-off structures, polarizable if you like, and so, does not have, in general, enough good properties. So in order to have good properties, one has to strengthen the condition, and this leads to the definition of the category of irregular mixed Hodge structure. So it's a subcategory of these integrable mixed twist-off structures like before, but we had to impose some properties in order to obtain, for example, that any morphism is strict with respect to this irregular Hodge filtration, which would not be the case a priori in general with this construction. So, I mean, there is a notion that works well. In fact, it is obtained by understanding what happens when you rescale the variable u. This is a classical procedure, this rescaling, but I will not enter in this technical condition.
But just to excuse me, if so, in those integrable mixed Hodge structures, they don't form an abelian category, do they?
Yes, they do. They do. But they do. But you produce from them, from this category, you produce a filtration on a vector space, and you don't know if this functor is exact, if you like.
Okay. So everything is strict with respect to the kind of W filtration, but not respect.
Yes. So in fact, in this category, the morphisms are bistrict. So they are strict with respect to both both filtrations. So this is the.
Yeah. And what do you get in the pure case? Is it easier to see? If you just consider one.
No. I mean, it's not so easy to check that an object has an irregular Hodge filtration. The point is to find examples, and then and the point is the following: that instead I could construct a category, a subcategory of the big category of Mochizuki of mixed twistor D modules. So there is a subcategory of what I call irregular mixed Hodge modules. And this category has functors. And if you know some objects in this category, you can produce many of them by applying the good functors. And in particular, the irregular mixed Hodge modules on a point are just these irregular mixed Hodge structures. And so you can, by taking, say, hypercohomology of irregular mixed Hodge module, you get irregular mixed Hodge structure. So this is the way to produce examples. But we do not have so many way to check whether a given integrable mixed twistor structure is indeed an object in this category.
Okay. And final question. So this Hodge thing now in this setting is a condition, not a structure, right? Because the covariance is already controlled by the connection.
Sorry, I did not understand the first part of the question.
So if you pass from Simpson's mixed twistor structure to Hodge structure, you need to impose C-star covariance, which is not a condition but an extra structure. But in your setting, it's just a condition now, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to see usual mixed Hodge structure from Simpson point of view, add in this point of view C-star equivalence, and C-star equivalence makes that this rescaling is very trivial. And so this rescaling scaling properties is satisfied, this closure scaling condition is satisfied. And so, in particular, structure.
Sound. Everybody hear well?
No, no, it's not good. Something wrong with your microphone, Claude. Hello, no sound at all.
Let me check. Is it better now?
Yes, much better.
Yes, fine.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so I was saying that a mixed Hodge structure in the natural definition can be viewed as a mixed two-star structure satisfying a C-star equivariance property. But when you this C-star equivalence implies that the condition put on the irregular mixed Hodge structure, this rescaling condition, is automatically satisfied. And so mixed Hodge structures are, in fact, irregular mixed Hodge structures, and their filtrations are on the H is exactly the usual Hodge filtration. So the mixed Hodge structure form a subcategory here of these objects. So as I said, it is difficult to check whether an object is or is not in this category, but the point is to give examples and to produce more from original ones by applying functors in the theory of irregular mixed Hodge modules. So, of course, I come back to the favorite example of this map F from X to A1 and assume that this map is proper or is tame. Tame meaning that, for example, if you think of X being affine like a complex torus, F is a Laurent polynomial, say, then tame would mean that it is non-degenerate and convenient in the sense of Kushnirenko. So tame is the fact that the polynomial has a good behavior at infinity in the fibers. Okay, or if you prefer, assume that F is proper. So you can consider this de Rham cohomology H. And what I
excuse me.
Yes.
May I ask you, you made some procedure to define this filtration via the origin, but you can do the same with infinity, right?
Yes.
And why do you prefer the origin?
I mean, there is no, I would say the following. I mean, in Hodge theory, you have the conjugation, and you prefer working with the holomorphic filtration better than the anti-holomorphic filtration when you have a variation, say. So here, 0 and infinity, as was remarked by Dmitry, 0 and infinity play the role of, say, or real and, there is an involution sending 0 to infinity, and you can think of this involution as being the conjugation. So when I change from 0 to infinity, what I am doing from the point of view of a twistor theory is just to conjugate. So I have used one approach, I could use the other one, but this would mean a conjugation.
But it would be still some filtration by
Yes.
Holomorphic guys, right?
Yes, but I mean, you have this involution, and so you can pass from one aspect to the other aspect. You do not change much things. So
I think, if I may comment, already in Simpson's work, there's a notion of C-Hodge structure, something like that, which actually has two filtrations.
yes.
Which play the role of F and F bar, but they don't have to be. I mean, they're just two filtrations. And
Yes.
if you put the real structure, then they become conjugate. So this is an analog with that, I think.
Yes, exactly, exactly. In fact, I will say also that from the point of view, it is from the example I will explain now. It is more natural. I mean, I take one chart will you will see it more naturally. So in this example, you consider the function f. You add a variable. So you add this chart a1 that you call u, and the function you consider on this product x times au is f divided by u. So it's very similar to the f times t that I had before, but you just consider here the 1 divided by u. And so what I claim is that this in this construction, the relative de Rham cohomology that I explained just below, this relative de Rham cohomology of this function f divided by u is exactly what I called before m nabla u. So this m nabla u on the left here is played by this cohomology, de Rham cohomology. The point is that in all examples I know from geometry, what is easy to compute is this m nabla u. It is very difficult to understand and to compute, even not possible in general, to have explicit computation of this T nabla. So T nabla is just usually produced by existence theorems. They are not, it is not something very geometric. But M nabla is much more geometric. And here you have a very simple expression as a relative de Rham complex. So this complex is built from the relative differential forms relative to U. So these are forms with no du in them. So these are relative to the projection to A1U. It has, of course, the standard differential dx that you twist by the exponential. This is the construction like d plus df that was done before. And it has also an action of the connection nabla u just by twisting the usual derivation. So when you apply nabla u to omega, you get minus f over u squared plus the usual derivation of omega. And so you see here, you see this pole of order 2 that will come in later. So this M that I want to consider, this cohomology, is the hypercohomology of this complex, relative de Rham complex, relative in the sense that the differential does not include differentiating with respect to U. But this hypercohomology it comes equipped with an action of nabla u, because nabla u commutes with nabla x, as is clear from this definition. Okay, because dx, d sub x, and the derivation with respect to u commute. So this hypercohomology comes equipped with the nabla u that I defined there. So this is This is our object, and it happens that we have part of the integrable mixed twist-stir structure, not the complete one, but part of it, and it is a theorem that it can be completed as a mixed twist-stir structure in the sense of Simpson. So it's really something not so, I mean, very analytic theorem here. But in any case, the filtration can be computed without knowing this T, because the definition only takes into account the M by this construction of Deligne's extension. So it is easy then to compute the irregular Hodge filtration and get this. Okay. Is it okay if I continue, or should I stop here?
Absolutely, go ahead. There is still half an hour at least.
Okay, so I will continue a little bit about what I call irregular Hodge state structures. So I come back to this mixed twist-stir structures with connection, and I would like to show that this notion is compatible with a conjecture of Katsarkov, Kontsevich, and Pantev. So let me start with a pure irregular mixed Hodge structure, so of some weight. So in that case, we get a vector bundle T, a connection. We know that the vector purity means that the vector bundle is in fact a trivial bundle. So you can assume the weight is 0 if you prefer. And the construction gives an irregular Hodge filtration, this construction of with the Deligne extensions. Now, it is clear from the construction itself that the jumps of this filtration are integers if and only if the eigenvalues of the monodromy of the connection are equal to 1, because I mean these integers mean the alphas can only be 0 on the left, so the eigenvalue is 1. So, and if the monodromy is unipotent, you can consider on the vector space H, so the monodromy, you consider it as acting on this vector space H. You can consider the Jacobson-Morozov filtration, let me call it M dot H, associated to the nilpotent part. So it's the usual construction which refines the Jordan decomposition of the nilpotent part. So you get a filtration, increasing filtration, and you say that this irregular mixed Hodge structure is irregular Hodge state if the following holds, that the dimension of the graded pieces of the Jacobson-Morozov filtration at 2p is the dimension of the graded piece of the Hodge filtration, and there is no even odd part for the Jacobson-Morozov filtration. So this is, of course, very similar to what one calls usually Hodge state. And you can rephrase the conjecture of Katsarkov, Kontsevich, and Pantev. You can rephrase it in this irregular setting by one of their conjectures is that if you start from a pair XF, which is Landau-Ginzburg model mirror to a projective Fano manifold Y, then the irregular mixed Hodge structure on this HNXF that we have already seen is pure and is irregular Hodge state. So it is one way to state this conjecture. And there have been, of course, many works on these conjectures from various points of view, many by Luntz, Przyjalkowski, Harder, Chamoto. Many use very fine properties of Fano manifolds. And I would like to finish this talk to show how this irregular approach can help to give a not very complicated proof for the toric case. So it's really only for the toric case and not more. But it is, I think, nicely seen in this toric case. So let me explain this. So in the toric case, so I use the usual toric setting. So we have a lattice M in Rn and the dual lattice M dual that is called N. We consider a reflexive simplicial polyhedron with vertices in M, call it delta. So reflexive means that 0 is the only integral point in delta. And if you like, any face, codimension 1 face of the polyhedron is defined by an equation which has a linear part with coefficients in integers and linear part equals to 1. So this is the definition of reflexive given by Batirev. Then you can consider the dual polyhedron, which has the same properties and it has vertices in N, so, but it is also reflexive simplicial, and consider the dual fan to delta, and in this case it's just the cone from the origin on delta star. And Y is the P of this fan sigma, the toric variety attached to this fan sigma. It is complete, and we will assume that it is smooth. So, and then by Batirev, we know that it is a toric Fano. So these are well, I mean, these objects are well understood. For example, the Chow ring is just the ring, the cohomology ring indexed by even integers, and it is generated by the divisor classes D sub V, where V is a vertex of the delta star. So this is classical, and also because it is Fano, the C1 of the anti-canonical bundle, which is expressed as a sum of the divisors, satisfies the hard-Lefschetz on this cohomology with rational coefficients. So this is classically known, and how to relate with our objects. So Y will be the Fano manifold, and from the mirror point of view, we consider the ring C of the lattice N with variables x1, xn. Consider the torus, n-dimensional torus X, and the map F is just given by this sum of the monomials, or X to V, V a vertex. So it is the sum of monomials at the vertices of delta stars. Now, the RAM cohomology of this pair, H and the RAM of XF, as if you remember, it's just we work with affine varieties. So I just take the global sections here. So it just it consists of the quotient of differential forms of maximal degree divided by d plus df of forms of degree 1 less. And there is an isomorphism with the Jacobian quotient times this form, volume form. So it means that you can forget the d in this quotient. I mean, you don't change the dimension when forgetting the D, the differential. This is called the Baranikov-Kontsevich theorem. So we know that there is we have this interpretation, but on the other hand, this quotient, Jacobian quotient, has also an interpretation from the point of view of Y, the Fano Y, because this is proved by Borisov, Chen, and Smith in their paper on stringy cohomology, that there is a filtration built from the combinatorics of the polyhedron on this Jacobian ring, even over Q, called the Newton filtration. So the index is the measure the dilation constant that for a given monomial in the ring, it measures is the dilation constant needed to put it inside the delta star. Sorry. So this is the filtration on monomials, and then you induce it on the quotient. And the theorem of Boyson-Chen-Smith in particular tells you that this, as graded rings, the cohomology of Y is the graded ring attached to the graded to the filtration, the Newton filtration. So we have this identification of rings. And in particular, this implies that hard Lefschetz for C1 of anti-canonical bundle means that in this example, when you multiply for any k between 0 and n over 2, dimension over 2, when you multiply by f to the n minus 2k in this graded ring, you get an isomorphism. So this is how hard Lefschetz is expressed. Now, at that point, you remember maybe a paper by Sasha Varchenko in singularity theory in 1981, published in Doklady. And in this paper, it was singularity theory, not exactly that setting, but not far, in fact. Sasha Varchenko interpreted this multiplication by f as the action of the nilpotent part of a monodromy operator. So, in fact, if you just adapt this idea of Varchenko to this case, you get exactly the irregular Hodge-Tate property. Namely, if I come back to the property, so if you remember, you interpret this multiplication by f as a nilpotent operator, and this is isomorphism here that you get from the hard Lefschetz. You identify the Newton filtration with the irregular Hodge filtration, that's a Hodge theoretical part. And once you have done that, you can see that hard Lefschetz exactly tells you that this irregular Hodge filtration satisfies, up to changing the indices of p by 2p, satisfies the characteristic property of the Jacobson-Morozov filtration. And since this filtration, Jacobson-Morozov filtration, is uniquely determined by these kind of properties, you get the equality of dimensions. So one has to be careful that there is no identification of vector spaces, but only on dimensions, because in fact, from the point of view I said before, you should consider this space on which f acts as a space at u equals 0, the fiber of our bundle M at u equals 0, H is at u equals 1, And in fact, Jacobson-Morozov filtration should be seen at u equals infinity. So we identify dimensions, but not vector spaces. But the idea is exactly that of Varchenko in 1981. So maybe I stop there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Maybe I stop sharing the screen.
Yeah, maybe. So let's have the speaker anyway. Maybe there are questions. So we don't hear you.
You hear me?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have a question, if it's okay. So there's this story of, it's kind of P-adic analog to the theory. There's a story of Katz's mother, which says that if you're over ZP, and Hodge polygon is, I forgot, less or bigger than the Newton polygon given by the Frobenius action on crystalline cohomology. I mean, I realize this outside of the scope of what you talked today, but probably there is an analog there. And do you expect this to hold also in this strange rational into kind of rational?
Well, as I said, with Zheng Daoyu, we could understand Adolphson and Sperber theorem as being really the analog of what Deligne wanted for in this toric case, because as I said just before, I mean, we can identify this Newton filtration with the irregular Hodge filtration, and so we can just reinterpret their work by just saying that in fact they built a Newton polygon from the irregular Hodge filtration, but there is nothing serious for our part. But we tried to extend having this notion of irregular Hodge filtration, which could a priori apply to cases where you are not in the toric case. So if you are not in the toric case, you don't know what to put instead of the Newton polygon.
Right, yeah.
So we thought that we could propose this irregular Hodge filtration more generally, but the compute, I mean, we could not prove anything because already the computation of Adolphson and Sperber are quite complicated, and we could not get any result in that direction. But at least the candidate is there, but we do not know much.
Okay, but the construction of the this rational Hodge filtration is purely very analytic, so it means that it's not clear how to do it in, say, over ZP, right?
Yes, but I mean, this construction, say, with the logarithmic Durham complex of Kontsevich and so on, you can think it can be done. I mean, over some field of characteristic 0, and so it could be helpful.
It's not in the end is an algebraic thing, right? That's not correct.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Also, maybe just a bit of, I don't know, remark or clarification. There was a bit of confusion with this Katsarkov-Kontsevich point of thing about DJ algebras. So they were doing this in Z-mod 2-graded setting.
Yes.
But in fact, if you are being careful about it and do it honestly, there's an extra parameter of degree 2 which you have to invert. And then for smooth and proper DJ algebras, actually you don't need any of it. What you get is a construction in the usual sense. But the case they were interested in was something like matrix factorizations,
yes.
which is genuinely Z-mod 2-graded, and there indeed you get all this. So in a sense, they were working again in some kind of exponential setting.
Yes, you are right. So I went very quickly on this these various
It's
aspects.
okay. It's just that I mean their terminology was unfortunate. Point
Yeah.
is that this is part of the same story as what you do in the usual algebraic geometry. I think. Okay, thank you very much. Any more questions? Comments? So if not, maybe let's thank Claude again.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.